3 months ago, on a delivery run, I saved a girl from drowning. I pulled her onto the riverbank, and once I knew she was breathing, I left without giving my name. I thought that was the end of it. I never expected the girl to be a massive online influencer with millions of followers. 3 months later, her mother stood before a wall of cameras, tears streaming down her face. 3 months ago, my daughter was sexually assaulted while swimming in the river. Now, she's pregnant. I'm offering a $1 million reward for any information leading to the capture of that monster. 1. I was sitting on the toilet in my cramped studio apartment when the story broke. On my phone screen, a live stream with over 100,000 viewers. A wealthy-looking woman was sobbing for the camera. The rumors are true. My daughter, Clara, was recently seen by fans at an OB/GYN clinic. I'm going live today to set the record straight and give her followers the explanation they deserve. The woman's voice cracked. 3 months ago, Clara was swimming in the river when a monster posing as a food delivery driver assaulted her. And he got her pregnant. My mind exploded, drowned out by a torrent of hateful comments scrolling across the screen. 3 months ago, I had just dropped off an order when I heard someone screaming for help. I dove into the water and pulled the girl out. I never dreamed the girl I saved was Clara Sinclair, the influencer. And I certainly never dreamed that 3 months later, I'd be accused of being the monster who assaulted her. On the screen, the woman, Regina Thorne, clutched a trembling Clara Sinclair and screamed into the camera. To all of you watching, I'm offering a $1 million reward. If you can provide a single clue that helps us find this animal, I, Regina Thorne, give you my word. And speaking of giving my word, I'd also like to recommend this amazing new skincare product. I couldn't hear the rest. $1 million reward. For that kind of money, people would dig up my family's graves. I snapped back to reality and glanced at the comment section. It was a cesspool of rage. Oh my God, they have to catch this creep. $1 million. Let's go, boys. Time to get rich. He's a delivery driver. Someone give me a list of every driver in the city. Reading those comments, a chill ran down my spine. My hands and feet felt like ice. I always thought of myself as a good person, a guy just doing his job. Now I was the most wanted predator in the city. 2. The situation escalated fast. The next day, a few shady-looking guys were lurking outside my Dash Runner dispatch center, snapping photos with their phones. My heart was in my throat. The whole city was hunting for me, hungry for that $1 million prize. I didn't dare go out on deliveries. Clara Sinclair's team released a blurry security cam screenshot. The back of a man in a bright red Dash Runner jacket. Just like that, every delivery driver in Chicago was a suspect. When one of my coworkers made a delivery, a girl took the food from him using a napkin, hissing, "Don't touch me, you pervert." At the dispatch center, our shift supervisor called a meeting, his face grim. "All right, listen up. I want every single one of you on your best behavior. Anyone steps out of line, you'll answer to me." I kept my head down, not daring to make sound. That evening, Regina Thorne, who is also Clara's manager, did an exclusive interview with a major news network. On the screen, her eyes were filled with venom. I know that monster is watching this right now. You can't hide. I will use every resource at my disposal. I will tear this city apart to find you, and I will make you kneel before my daughter and beg for forgiveness. My blood ran cold. It was only a matter of time before they found me. Turn myself in? Who would believe me? My word, a random delivery driver against a famous influencers. I'd be dead in the water. Sinking into despair, a news alert popped up on my phone. Regina Thorne was hosting a thank you gala at the Starlight Grand Hotel to announce the latest developments in the manhunt. A crazy idea sparked in my mind. I couldn't keep hiding, waiting for my life to be destroyed. I had to go to that gala. I had to look them in the eye and ask them why they were trying to ruin me. 3. On the day of the gala, I spent the last of my money, $300, on a cheap, rented tuxedo. I slipped in with a crowd of reporters and guests. Regina and Clara were the center of attention, surrounded by a sympathetic mob. Regina wore a look of profound grief, while Clara, dressed in a loose-fitting maternity gown, looked fragile and beautiful, drawing pity from everyone. She kept her head bowed, thanking each person for their support, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. I hid in a corner, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was the person I saved. and she was the person trying to destroy me. The gala began. Regina led Clara onto the stage. First, I want to thank every one of you for your incredible support. Regina's voice echoed through the grand ballroom. I know what you're all here to find out. Where's the monster? Her tone was heavy with sorrow. The police have already identified several key persons of interest. I have full confidence that he will be brought to justice very soon. The crowd erupted in applause. I clenched my fists. Tonight, we also have a special guest with us, Regina said, gesturing to someone in the front row. A man in glasses walked onto the stage. Please welcome one of the nation's foremost experts in criminal psychology, Dr. Alistair Finch. Dr. Finch will now share his analysis of the kind of depraved individual who could commit such a heinous act. My stomach dropped. What did I ever do to deserve this? This wasn't just an accusation. It felt like a meticulously crafted trap. 4. Dr. Finch took the microphone. Based on the available information, we can construct a preliminary psychological profile of the suspect, he began, his voice oozing academic authority. First, it is highly probable that this individual comes from a lower socioeconomic background. His life is a landscape of failure, leading to a deeply ingrained inferiority complex. He likely chose a job like a delivery driver as a cover, allowing him to move through the city's shadows unnoticed. I let out a bitter, silent laugh. What a load of crap. Second, he is likely a loner, paranoid, obsessive, and with violent tendencies, Finch continued. He harbors a deep-seated jealousy for those who are more successful and visible than he is. So, when he encountered a pure, radiant young woman like Ms. Sinclair, the darkness in his soul was triggered, compelling him to commit this crime. The guests nodded along, their faces filled with disgust, as if the image of this predator had been irrevocably burned into their minds. Finally, and this is the most critical point, Dr. Finch said, his voice dropping for dramatic effect. This man is, at his core, a profound coward. He only preys on those he perceives as weaker than himself. After the act, he would scurry away like a rat, even attempting to blend back into society, secretly monitoring the fallout from his crime. It's even possible. Dr. Finch's eyes seemed to scan the crowd, landing directly on me. That he is here with us tonight, hiding in this very room. Instantly, every head in the ballroom began to turn, searching. Hundreds of eyes felt like needles stabbing into my skin. Just then, on stage, Clara Sinclair suddenly covered her mouth and let out a small, retching sound. Regina immediately rushed to her side. Clara, what's wrong? Are you okay? Clara shook her head, her face turning even paler. I'm fine, Mom. Just a little nauseous. That single act was all it took to ignite the room's fury. Find him. Don't let him get away. Regina comforted her daughter, but a flicker of cold triumph flashed in her eyes. She grabbed the microphone, her voice booming with authority. You coward! I know you're in here. Show yourself. Stand up, get on your knees, and apologize to my daughter. Because if I have to find you myself, I guarantee you will regret the day you were born. The seconds ticked by. Silence. No one moved. A cruel smile played on Regina's lips. Fine. Have it your way, she sneered. It seems you won't give up until you're cornered. She snapped her fingers. On the large screen behind the stage, a new security video appeared. It showed a man in a red Dash Runner jacket from behind, dragging Clara's unconscious body from the river. The build, the posture. I recognized it in a heartbeat. It was me. We paid a handsome price to retrieve this footage from a private warehouse near the scene. Regina's voice was like ice. While the face is unclear, we have already sent it to a team of forensic experts for high-definition enhancement. In 24 hours, at most, we will see your disgusting face. And then, there will be nowhere left for you to hide. Regina's words crashed over me, and I felt myself sinking into a sea of despair. Just as I was about to give up, I remembered a crucial detail. To prevent theft and fraudulent complaints, Dash Runner requires all its drivers to have a safety feature enabled on their phones during peak hours, a body cam function that records every delivery. That day, I had just completed a drop-off and hadn't turned it off yet when I heard the cries for help. A wild, desperate plan began to form in my mind. If you're going to destroy my life, Then before I go down, I'm dragging you to hell with me. 5. When no one came forward, Regina seemed to lose her patience. She held up the swaying Clara, her voice filled with righteous anger. It seems you need a little more motivation to confess. She glanced toward the ballroom entrance and commanded, "Bring him in." The doors opened, and 2 security guards dragged a man inside. He was wearing the same Dash Runner uniform as me. His face was bruised and swollen, with a trickle of blood at the corner of his mouth. It was my co-worker, Manny, a quiet, middle-aged guy with 2 kids at home. "This man," Regina announced, pointing a finger at Manny, "is one of our primary suspects. According to our sources, he was making a delivery in the area on the night of the attack." Manny was trembling, shaking his head frantically. "It wasn't me. I swear it wasn't me. I was just passing through." "Passing through?" Regina scoffed. "Then why won't you tell us where you were? Why can't you account for your time?" I was meeting a friend." Manny stammered, clearly terrified. Faced with Regina's overpowering presence and the accusatory stares of 100 people, an ordinary man couldn't possibly form a coherent defense. "Do you see everyone?" Regina scanned the room, fully in control. "This is how a monster hides. He weaves a web of lies, trying to confuse and mislead us. But we will not overlook a single shred of doubt. We are turning him over to the police, and he will pay the price for his crimes." Manny collapsed to the floor, his face ashen, muttering over and over, "It wasn't me, it wasn't me." Watching this, I felt a surge of pure rage. They weren't just trying to destroy me. They were willing to drag an innocent man down with them. They were going to use a scapegoat to quell the media storm and solidify their status as victims. I couldn't take it anymore. While all eyes were on Manny, I bolted from my corner, snatched a microphone from a nearby reporter, and roared, "Let him go. You got the wrong guy." The ballroom erupted in chaos. Every camera, every pair of eyes swiveled in my direction. The moment Regina Thorne saw my face, her expression turned ugly. A flash of panic crossed her features before it was replaced by cold fury. "And who are you?" "I'm the one you're looking for," I said, my voice shaking but loud. "I'm the man who saved Clara Sinclair." A dead silence fell over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. Seconds later, the silence was shattered by a tidal wave of murmurs. "Is that him? The predator? He looks so normal. I can't believe he's that kind of scumbag. Get him. Somebody grab him before he runs." Several security guards started moving toward me. "Wait," Regina commanded, holding up a hand to stop them. She slowly descended from the stage, closing the distance between us one step at a time. She stopped right in front of me, looking me up and down with a contemptuous, icy smile. "You're saying you saved my daughter?" "Yes." I stood my ground, chest out. "Then why don't you tell us all how you saved her?" Her voice was dripping with sarcasm and disbelief. I looked at her, then glanced past her at Clara, who had kept her head down the entire time, refusing to meet my gaze. I laughed. "Ms. Thorne, you seem to be in a big hurry to convict me. Are you afraid of something?" "Afraid?" She sneered as if I told the world's funniest joke. "Why would I be afraid?" "You're afraid of the truth." I stared directly into her eyes and slowly raised my work phone. "The truth." Regina struggled to maintain her composure. "What evidence could a stalker like you possibly have? A bunch of sick, secretly filmed pictures." "Sick?" I smiled. "Ms. Thorne, you probably don't know this, but to prevent fraud, my company requires us to have a body cam app running during our shifts. It can't be turned off. I have the entire recording of me saving your daughter that night. You say I assaulted her. Well, let's show everyone right now exactly how I assaulted her." I made a move to connect my phone to the big screen. "Stop." Regina's composure finally broke. She shrieked, "Don't you dare try to confuse people with your fabricated video." Dr. Finch, the expert, immediately jumped in, addressing the crowd with righteous conviction. "Everyone, please remain calm. This is a classic criminal tactic. When a suspect is cornered, they will often present meticulously prepared, seemingly exculpatory evidence in an attempt to manipulate public opinion. The more he insists, the more it proves his guilt." His words were potent. The guests, who had started to waver, were now glaring at me with renewed fury. "He's right. Don't listen to him. He's a psycho trying to save his own skin." Regina, Call the police. Let them handle this degenerate. Seeing that she had regained control of the narrative, Regina relaxed, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. She looked at me like a bug caught in a spider's web, still twitching but already doomed. Did you hear that? The people know the truth when they see it. Now, do you have anything else to say? I do, I said, meeting her gaze head-on. I say your daughter is lying. And the baby she's carrying isn't mine. That sentence was a bomb. The gala exploded into absolute chaos. What did you say? Clara's head shot up, tears streaming down her face, a mask of disbelief and anguish. You monster. You ruined my life, and now you're trying to slander me? You're not even human. She sobbed hysterically, nearly collapsing. Regina caught her, turning to the crowd with a look of pure maternal fury. You see this? Do you all see what this animal is doing? To escape justice, he's resorted to this. He is victimizing my poor daughter all over again. The enraged crowd started surging forward, and the security guards lunged, ready to tackle me to the ground. At that exact moment, the main doors of the ballroom were thrown open. Police! Nobody move! The sharp command froze the entire scene. 6. Police! Nobody move! The lead officer's sharp command cut through the chaos. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, swept the room, finally landing on me, Regina, and the guards about to pin me down. A flicker of panic crossed Regina's face, but she quickly masked it, stepping forward to greet the officers with a practiced air of a victim. Officers, thank God you're here. This monster finally showed his face. We were just about to restrain him before he could hurt anyone else, she cried, pointing at me as if I were a convicted felon. I ignored her performance and held up my work phone as I walked toward the officers. Officer, I'm not a predator. I'm the one who saved her, I said calmly, and I have proof. I turned to Manny, who was still paralyzed with fear. Manny, tell them what kind of person I am. Seeing the police, Manny scrambled to his feet like they were his saviors. He pointed at me, then at Regina, so agitated he could barely speak. Officers, Leo's a good kid. Everyone at the center knows it. It was this woman. She had her people kidnap me. They beat me up. Regina's face went white. That's ridiculous. You're obviously in on it together. The evidence will show who's together on what. I cut in, handing my phone to the lead officer. This is the complete, unedited footage from my company's mandatory safety app from the night I rescued her. It can't be altered or faked. Please, I want you and every member of the media here to see for yourself how I supposedly managed to get Ms. Sinclair pregnant. And my words, every camera lens in the room zoomed in on the phone in the officer's hand. Regina's pupils constricted. You can't watch that, she shrieked. It's fake. He's a stalker. He's had months to fabricate a fake video. We'll be the judge of that, the officer said, his voice firm. He was an experienced cop, unfazed by her hysterics. He motioned for a technician to connect the phone to the ballroom's projection screen. Regina tried to lunge forward, but another officer blocked her path. She could only watch in horror as the screen flickered to life. The video began from the perspective of my e-bike, the sounds of wind and city traffic rushing by. Then, the picture shook violently as I ditched the bike and ran toward the riverbank. A faint cry for help could be heard. A splash. It was the sound of me hitting the water. The phone, safe in a waterproof pouch, tumbled with my movements, the lens eventually focusing on Clara Sinclair flailing in the dark water. I swam hard, grabbed her, and began pulling her toward the shore. The only sounds were my own ragged breaths and the churning of the water. There were no lewd comments, no threatening actions. Finally, we were on the bank. I laid her down on the grass. She was unconscious, not breathing. The video showed me, without a moment's hesitation, beginning CPR, chest compressions, rescue breaths, cough, cough. Finally, Clara choked up a spray of water and slowly came to. The entire ballroom was silent. In the video, I visibly relaxed, relieved she was alive. I then took off my clean, dry Dash Runner jacket and draped it over her shivering body. Then I turned, walked back to my bike, and rode away. The video ended. The truth was out. After a long, stunned silence, the room exploded. My God, he was saving her. We had it all wrong. He's not a monster. He's a hero. Then why would Regina Thorne lie? That's just evil. The blinding flashes of the cameras turned away from me and focused on Regina and her daughter, their faces now pale with shock. Regina was trembling, but she was a seasoned manager who had weathered countless storms. Pushed into a corner, she reacted with stunning speed. She wrapped her arms around the trembling Clara and cried out to the crowd and the cameras. Okay, Fina. So he saved her that one time. That doesn't prove he's innocent. Her logic was twisted, but sharp. My daughter is 3 months pregnant. We have a doctor's reports to prove it. The timeline fits perfectly. He obviously used the rescue as an excuse to find out where Clara lived, stalked her, and then found another opportunity to commit his crime. Clara, tell them I'm right. She clung to the pregnancy, a single, undeniable fact, to try and muddy the waters and escape the fallout from her exposed lie. Clara, on cue, began to sob even more pitifully. It was him. I'm so scared, Mom. The crowd was swayed once again. Though they now had sympathy for me, the fact of the pregnancy still hung in the air, a cloud of suspicion I couldn't seem to escape. The lead officer frowned. That's enough, he said. All relevant parties will come with us to the station to give a formal statement. 7. At the station, they questioned me, Regina, and Clara in separate rooms. I told them everything from beginning to end. When I finished my statement, Regina and her lawyer were waiting in the hall. She looked at me not with anger, but with the condescending pity one might show a condemned man. Well, kid, you got lucky, she said with a dismissive smirk. You had one trick up your sleeve, but it doesn't matter. That video only proves you were a hero for 5 minutes. The pregnancy report is black and white. Who do you think the public will believe in the end? A video that can be faked or a certified report from a medical doctor? He's still there. I didn't do it. I want a DNA test. Hearing this, Regina didn't flinch. In fact, her smile widened, oozing with the confidence of someone who knows they've already won. Fine by me, she said, readily agreeing. She even turned to a nearby officer. Officer, we consent to a DNA test. We want this animal to face the hard evidence and finally give up his lies. Her absolute confidence sent a chill down my spine. Why wasn't she scared? The story blew up. The footage of me saving Clara went viral. Overnight, I went from being the internet's most wanted predator to the wrongfully accused hero driver. My social media accounts were found, and my follower count skyrocketed. People flooded my comments with support, condemning Regina and Clara as manipulative and cruel. Manny also gave an interview, vouching for my character and telling his side of the story. For a moment, it felt like the entire world was on my side. I thought all I had to do was wait for the DNA results, and this nightmare would be over. My company, Dash Runner, even had me do a live stream to clear the air. I calmly explained my side of the story to over 1 million viewers and told them I was waiting for the DNA test to prove my innocence once and for all. For a few days, I was flooded with messages of encouragement. Then, the day the test results came out, everything changed. I was called back to the police station. An officer handed me the report, his expression unreadable. I tore it open, my eyes jumping to the final conclusion. Based on the analysis of the DNA samples provided, the subject, Leo Carter, is supported as the biological father of the fetus carried by Clara Sinclair. My mind went blank. How? How is this possible? The report shook in my hands, the paper rattling loudly. No, this is impossible. It's fake. The report has to be fake. I yelled at the officer. Mr. Carter, please calm down, he said, placing a hand on my shoulder. This test was conducted by a certified, independent lab. There were no procedural irregularities. I collapsed into a chair, a deathly cold spreading through my body. It was over. This time, there was no coming back. Regina and Clara received their copy of the report and immediately called a second press conference. Regina stood at the podium, holding the DNA report high, tears streaming down her face, but with the triumphant air of a victor. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, the truth is finally out. Science doesn't lie. This is irrefutable proof. That man, Leo Carter, is not just a predator. He's a master manipulator. He staged a heroic rescue to deceive all of you, to paint himself as a hero and escape responsibility for his crime. The depth of his cunning, the depravity of his actions. It's unthinkable. The tide of public opinion turned in an instant. The backlash was 1,000 times more brutal than before. Holy crap, what a twist. The hero was the villain all along. This is terrifying. You really can't judge a book by its cover. I almost fell for it. People like him are worse than obvious monsters. Cancel him. Ruin him. My live stream was chopped up into mocking memes. My every word was reanalyzed as the calculated performance of a sociopath. I became the most hated man in America, the rapist who played the hero. Regina's legal team filed a lawsuit against me for assault, defamation, and emotional distress, demanding a fortune in damages. I had been thrown into the abyss, and this time, there was no one left to pull me out. 8. I locked myself in my apartment. I didn't eat, didn't sleep. I just watched the rescue video over and over, trying to understand where it all went wrong. How could the DNA be mine? I mentally retraced every second of my contact with Clara that night. The CPR? The rescue breaths? There's DNA in saliva, but not enough for a paternity test. You can't get someone pregnant through mouth-to-mouth. I slowed the video down to 0, 25x speed, examining it frame by frame. Me diving in, pulling her to shore, performing CPR. Wait, right as I dragged her onto the bank, as her body rolled onto the grass, something small and silver slipped out of the pocket of her oversized dress and fell into the weeds. In the chaos of the moment, I hadn't noticed it at all. I took a screenshot of that single frame and blew it up. It was a cufflink. It had a unique design, a stylized letter C with a tiny diamond set in the curve. This wasn't something an ordinary person would wear. And the style, it felt familiar. An idea struck me. I went on Google and searched for C initial diamond cufflink. The top result was a news article from a business journal. The photo showed a charismatic, middle-aged man giving a speech at a corporate summit. On the cuff of his shirt was the exact same C cufflink. The caption read, Julian Croft, CEO of Astra Media, debuts the first piece from his wife's bespoke jewelry line, Isabel Croft Designs. He noted the cufflink was a one-of-a-kind piece designed by his wife personally to celebrate their anniversary. I dug deeper. Astra Media was the management company, the MCN, that represented Clara Sinclair. A horrifying theory crystallized in my mind. Clara was pregnant with Julian Croft's child. Croft was a married man, and his wife was from a powerful, old-money family. If the affair came out, he would be ruined. So, Regina Thorne orchestrated this entire nightmare. She needed a fall guy. And on that night, the guy who stopped to play the hero walked right into her trap. As for my DNA, I looked back at the video. When I took off my jacket and put on her my hair, my skin cells, they would have been all over it. They took my jacket. They had my DNA. Finding a private lab they could bribe to fake a report against a nobody like me would have been child's play. It was a diabolical 2-for-1 scheme. It covered up her daughter's scandal while giving her the ultimate blackmail material to use against Julian Croft. It was pure evil. I had the truth, but I had no proof. A blurry screenshot of a cufflink wouldn't be enough to convict anyone. Then I saw it. On my screen, an ad for a charity livestream being hosted by Julian Croft's wife. A new, incredibly risky plan formed. I looked at my bank account. I had just over $1,000 left, next month's rent. With a deep breath, I transferred it all into my TikTok account. I changed my username to, I have proof of your husband's affair. Then, I entered Isabel Croft's live stream and dropped the biggest virtual gift they had, a supernova. 9. The day of my trial arrived. I was a citywide joke. The courthouse steps were swarmed with reporters and protesters screaming insults at me. Regina and Clara arrived with a security detail, walking into the courthouse like conquering heroes. Clara's baby bump was now prominent. She cradled it gently, her expression a practiced mix of vulnerability and disgust as she looked at me. Regina walked right up to me and whispered, so only I could hear, "What does it feel to be a dead man walking? Enjoy your time in prison. You could spend the rest of your life repenting in there." I ignored her and closed my eyes, saving my energy. The trial began. Regina's lawyer presented the DNA report as the cornerstone of their case, demanding the judge give me the maximum sentence. Just as the judge was about to accept the report into evidence, I raised my hand. "Your Honor, I object." Every eye in the courtroom turned to me. Regina's lawyer chuckled. Objection? On what grounds? Are you planning to show us another one of your home movies, Mr. Carter? No, I said, shaking my head and looking directly at Regina. This time, I'd like to call a new witness to the stand. The courtroom doors swung open. A woman of immense grace and power walked in. The moment Regina saw her, the smug smile vanished from her face. Clara gasped and shot up from her seat in terror. The witness was Isabel Croft. Mrs. Croft? What are you doing here? Regina's voice trembled. Isabel ignored her, walking directly to the witness stand and handing a folder to the bailiff. Your Honor, her voice was calm and clear as glass. I am here to contest the validity of that DNA report. During the same time period in question, my husband, Julian Croft, was engaged in an illicit affair with Miss Clara Sinclair. In this folder, I have hotel security footage to prove it. She paused, her gaze falling on Clara's stomach. Therefore, I formally request that this court order a new, impartial DNA test to be performed on the fetus Miss Sinclair is carrying. The courtroom was utterly silent for a moment, and then the press gallery erupted into a frenzy of camera shutters and frantic typing. This was no longer a simple assault case. It had just become a national headline involving a corporate titan, adultery, a secret baby, and a massive conspiracy. No, you're lying. That's fake. Regina, completely lost control, tried to rush the witness stand before being restrained by court officers. It's you. You and this rapist conspired to frame my daughter. Behind her, Clara looked as if her soul had been sucked out of her body. Her legs gave out, and she crumpled to the floor. She stared blankly at Isabel, then at me, and finally down at her own swollen belly, mumbling, "No, that's not what happened." The terror in her eyes was no longer an act. It was real. The judge slammed his gavel. Order. Order in the court. He announced that the trial was suspended. In light of the shocking new evidence, he was officially ordering a court-mandated amniocentesis to be performed by the state's most secure forensic lab. DNA samples would be collected from me, and from the new person of interest in this case, Julian Croft, to conduct a definitive, unimpeachable paternity test. 10. While we waited for the final results, I told the police everything I had uncovered, my theory, the cufflink screenshot, and the desperate gamble I took by contacting Isabel Croft. Just as I suspected, after receiving my message during her live stream, the formidable Isabel Croft had hired a team of top-tier private investigators. In a matter of days, they had uncovered every detail of her husband's affair, giving her the ironclad evidence she needed. She chose to detonate the bomb in the middle of my trial not to save me, but to enact the most public and brutal revenge possible for her husband's betrayal. The results of the court-ordered DNA test came back. There were no surprises. Julian Croft was the father. That report was the first domino to fall. Police immediately launched a formal investigation into the lab that produced the first fraudulent report. Under pressure, the bribe lab technician quickly confessed. He admitted that Regina Thorne had paid him $500,000 in cash, through a middleman, to use the DNA samples from my jacket and fake the results. The final piece of the puzzle was Clara Sinclair. After learning that her own mother had been using her and her unborn child as pawns to blackmail Julian Croft, she had a complete mental breakdown. On the advice of her new lawyer, she chose to cooperate, giving the police a full confession that detailed the entire conspiracy. Her affair with Croft had resulted in the pregnancy. Croft refused to leave his powerful wife and was terrified of the scandal. That's when the ambitious Regina devised her plan. She used my heroic act as an opportunity, stealing the jacket I'd left on her daughter to get my DNA, and then buying the fake report to frame me as the perfect scapegoat. With me taking the fall, she could cover up her daughter's scandal while simultaneously using the secret of the baby's true parentage to extort millions of dollars and company resources from Julian Croft. She had even hired the so-called expert, Dr. Finch, to publicly create a damning psychological profile to ensure that I would be convicted in the court of public opinion long before I ever saw a judge. The whole rotten truth was finally out in the open. 11. The court exonerated me of all charges. Regina Thorne, found guilty of filing a false police report, perjury, and conspiracy to obstruct justice, was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. The grand drama she directed ended with her in a cage. Dr. Alistair Finch had his professional licenses revoked for providing false expert testimony and was disgraced. Julian Croft was financially annihilated by Isabel in the divorce. Stripped of his wife's connections and fortune, he lost control of Astra Media, which saw its stock plummet and eventually file for bankruptcy in the wake of the scandal. As for Clara Sinclair, due to her cooperation and evidence that she had been under long-term psychological manipulation by her mother, she received a suspended sentence. In a public statement, she gave me a deep, tearful apology. She said she would keep the baby, raise it on her own, and spend the rest of her life atoning for her cowardice. Finally, the court ordered Clara to pay me $1 million in damages, the same amount Regina had once offered as a bounty for my head. 12. After the storm passed, I turned down every interview and every offer from influencer agencies. I took the settlement money, moved to a different city, and bought a small house, my own place, far from the dark, damp apartment where my nightmare began. I didn't quit my job as a delivery driver, though. I just switched to a different platform with better hours. On a bright, sunny afternoon, I put on my clean uniform, got on my e-bike, and rode through the streets of my new city. A new order pinged on my phone. I looked at the address on the map, twisted the throttle, and merged into the flow of traffic. The sky was blue, and the breeze was warm. I was still just an ordinary guy doing his job. And if I ever saw someone drowning again, I'd still jump in to save them. Because justice might be slow, but it always shows up. And in the end, kindness gets its own reward.